Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2006 recut of Superman 2, which is also known as the Donner Cut. Now, the Donner Cut is one of those experimental edits that has a lot of fans, but I don't know. I've never really been that big on the Donner cut. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on Richard Donner's cut of Superman 2, I want to give a special shout out to Matthew for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description down below. Now, I understand why this exists. It's a way to see what Richard Donner might have done with Superman 2 if he was able to finish shooting, editing, and directing the movie. But I don't really understand the heaping amount of praise that this cut gets, especially the critics that say that it's demonstrably better than the Richard Lester cut of Superman 2. I don't think it's demonstrably better at all. I actually think it's worse. There's a lot of things in this that are changed or completely omitted for relatively no reason. I mean, why would you cut out one of the best lines in the film where Superman flies outside the Daily Planet and tells General Zod if he would like to step outside? Instead, it's replaced with some bullshit about freedom of the press, which doesn't land and really doesn't really click. And you have other stuff where when the Kryptonians are released from the Phantom Zone, the three Kryptonian criminals, Zod, Ursa, and Non, you have a shot of Zod flying towards the camera and yelling free at the top of his lungs. It's laughable. And it doesn't help either that the CGI is horribly dated and looks like shit. So you have this really bad CGI. Then you have General Zod flying towards the camera and going, free! It's just like, what is this? It's silly. For all the crap that Richard Lester gets for his slapstick and the silliness and his version of the film, there are moments in this that are just as silly and just as bad when it comes to either unintentional humor or an intentional attempts at humor. For instance, I counted not one, not two, not three, but six piss jokes in the first 45 minutes of this cut. Honestly, I will take Richard Lester's slapstick any day of the fucking week over lazy piss jokes. I mean, there's a whole sequence in the Fortress of Solitude with Lex Luthor and Miss Tessmacher where there's two piss jokes in the same scene. It ends with Miss Tessmacher finding a toilet in the Fortress of Solitude and flushing it. Yeah, that's definitely something that should have been kept in Superman 2. No, there's a reason why that was cut out. Because it's lame, it's tired, it's not funny. Six different piss jokes? Are you fucking kidding me? Why are more people not talking about that glaring flaw in the Donner cut? Also, the things that they do with Lois Lane in terms of her doing all these extra things to try to reveal the identity of Superman and trying to get Clark to show her that he's Superman aren't really that great here either. They're very clunky. One is by design because they didn't have the footage, so they had to do something where they took the screen test footage of Christopher Reeve and edited it into the scene, and it just doesn't really click that well. It isn't really that effective. It's very glaring and very obvious that it's the screen test footage. And then the earlier stuff with her jumping out the window of the Daily Planet, like it's a well put together shot. It's got some good effects. But I personally feel the way that Lester handled it in his version is better. even though it's ultimately the same result. And there's other little things too, like for some reason, Superman sleeps with Lois in this cut before he loses his powers. Is this what people are using as the basis for Superman Returns being canon? I guess. And then on top of that, there's a lot of hype about Marlon Brando and his new scenes, and I wasn't really that impressed with them. It kind of sounded like he was sleepwalking through his lines and really wasn't given a lot of effort. He wasn't really providing the best performance. He was just going through the motions, as Jor-El here, talking about the past and giving a little bit of a history lesson about the three Kryptonian criminals. I don't get the hype. I really don't. In fact, I liked the stuff with Valerie Harper, with his mother. I think it's Valerie. No, I think that's actually Miss Tessmacher. I think, but I think what's her name is Samantha something. I completely have mind blanked the name of the actress who played Superman's mom. My apologies. But anyway, it was nice to see her. It was nice to see Superman's mother instead of just Jor-El again. In fact, I think that the best thing would have been a combination of the two. If you had Jor-El and Superman's mom and they shared dialogue. So then you had Superman's mom and dad comforting him and telling him what's going on and trying to warn him of the dangers of giving up his powers. Speaking of giving up his powers, that's also not as well put together or as satisfying in the Donner cut. I actually like the effect of his body breaking down while he was in the chamber. Here he just walks in and it's just red lighting and it looks really cheap. And then you have another shot where he goes back in to, well, actually he doesn't go back into the chamber. He gets his powers back because Jor-El sacrifices himself one last time, and it looks really cheesy. And it just doesn't register on a positive level for me. Say what you want about Superman 2, the Lester cut, and some of the really equally cheesy things like Superman throwing a saran wrap S at a guy, but that to me is not as bad as a moment here, which is supposed to be this big moment where Superman gets his powers back and Jor-El sacrifices himself one last time to save his son. And the way that it's edited and the way that the effects are, it just looks really bad. If that's what it would have looked like in the finished cut, audiences would be laughing. And there's other things too that just affect the pacing. There's really not a lot of action in the Donner cuts because it takes a while to get anywhere and to get going. You have the bit with Lois trying to kill herself, commit suicide, jump out the window so Superman can save her. And then you have the whole bit with Niagara Falls. But other than that, there's not a lot going on. Uh, I actually like the fact that in the Lester cut you had the Paris sequence where Superman has to stop these terrorists who have an atom bomb. It was a nice way to showcase some extra intrigue and to provide a bit of action early on in the film. I will say this about the action. The White House sequence where the Kryptonian criminals attack the White House, I think that is a really great sequence, and I wish that was kept in the Lester cut of the film. Uh, I also like some of the extra bits in the final confrontation between the three Kryptonian criminals. Like, for instance, when Superman gets socked, gets absolutely just wrecked and flies into the Statue of Liberty. I actually really like that shot. There's a couple other shots too where Superman like knocks a guy into a sign that was handled better in the Donner cut. And there's a few other things that I would say would be positives. I don't mind the opening credits for Superman 2, the Lester cut. I like the fact that you have a lot of footage from the first movie that's spliced in with the theme and everything. But I will say this, I would have preferred the opening for the Donner cut over that because you have John Williams' score instead of a guy just copying John Williams' score. And it sounds richer, it sounds fuller, and then you have the same font, the same opening titles that were very rousing and fun from Superman the movie. And the Donner cut overall does return to form when it comes to the score because it actually does bring back John Williams's whole compositions. It doesn't just have the same compositions but without John Williams doing them. So that's definitely a plus as well. Um And I didn't mind the fact that Non was toned down in this, that he was less of a joke. I know some people prefer the fact that Non was more comedic and so on, and I think that's great. To each their own, but I always felt it just made him less intimidating. So I actually like the fact that they toned down his more comical nature here and made him more of a intimidating brute force. So there are some positives with the Donner cut, but to me the negatives just far outweigh the positives for me. I don't care for the Donner cut. It takes away some of the best moments in the theatrical version of the film in terms of lines of dialogue. It adds new scenes that don't really make the film any better, except for maybe the White House sequence and a couple extra shots in the final battle. It even makes the confrontation between Superman and the three Kryptonian criminals inside the Fortress of Solitude worse because you have less of a fight between the characters. Where in the theatrical version, you have that moment where they try to shoot him with like some kind. I think they try to shoot him with their laser, with their heat vision, and then he like blocks it with his hand. Um, you don't have that in this cut. And there's other things too, like Lex Luthor dies because Superman destroys the Fortress of Solitude. Why is he destroying the Fortress of Solitude? What is the point of that? I thought that was really not necessary. And then instead of, yeah, the dumb mind wipe kiss that Superman gives Lois at the end of the theatrical version, now you have him spinning the world around backwards. And I understand that that was originally the version. I mean, that was originally the intended ending for Superman 2, but it doesn't work here. I thought it worked a lot better in Superman the movie because it was him choosing to save Earth and choosing Earth's values over the values of his ancestors. It was a confirmation of him deciding to end the conflict between uh, his Kryptonian ancestors and Earth. So I actually like the ending of Superman the movie. I think it works thematically in terms of him making that decision and taking that risk. Here, it just, I don't think it really works as well. Um, and I'm not a fan of the mind wipe kiss, but I can deal with that more than wasting the spinning the world around backwards just so he can prevent the Kryptonian criminals from even escaping in the first place. It just makes it makes everything that happened beforehand ultimately a whole bunch of nothing because at least at the end of Superman the movie he does spin it backwards, but there are still things that still happen in terms of the disaster that Lex Luthor starts and sets up. And speaking of Lex, I also don't think Gene Hackman is as good in this as he is in Superman the movie either, and neither is Ned Beatty. It's Otis. He was really annoying in this. I didn't find him to be nearly as charming or fun, and Valerie Perrin as Miss Tessmacher just seemed to be completely pointless and tacked on. I mean, there's a whole scene, like I was saying earlier, where she's just the butt of a piss joke. But anyway, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about the Donner cut of Superman 2, except it is a interesting experiment that's worth one watch just to see what Donner's potential concept for Superman 2 might have looked like. But past that, it's flawed, it's slow, it's boring, and it's just nowhere near as much fun as the Lester cut of Superman 2. Anyway, thank you for watching my review of the Donner cut of Superman 2, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.